when you render scenery inside the view will render also and calculate indirect lighting. And indirect lighting, it's will based on your sun position when it's reflected, and to save some time on this, View allowed us to reuse indirect lighting for our application, and it's actually work very smart. It's calculating if any changes when you're going like with moving through camera, and it's render those elements that is not kind of affected. And also when you work with stills, maybe adjustments, something, it's work using indirect lighting work very well as well. However, if you have any dramatic or big changes in lighting, for example, you take a sun and you change position of the sun or going up and down, then you need kind of refresh that indirect lighting. It does not work very well in this situation. So to enable use indirect lighting, currently right now you see it's disabled. Okay, so we need actually create and render first scenery. So if we're going setup, and we'll go click let's go render to screen, just something very small so we can preview. Okay, so we're done render, and this is just very simple rendering. At this point, you notice right here, because we already collect the information for this specific scenery, we can enable reuse indirect lighting. You have the button to update lighting next time, so instead check uncheck, you can always just click and it will refresh, just buffer, just clean up. So next time, for example, let's leave it right here. We'll take our, we'll move it position. So render again. Let's look right here what's happening. So see how it's faster work. You saw some indirect lighting did apply it right on previous, so it did cache it, but it's work faster than first time when we render because it was reusing some of this lighting. And again, it's better work if you have it, for example, several objects, and we're using camera to go between them. So when position is not changed that much and light does not change, then reuse worth time. Otherwise, you probably want to disable if your lighting will change if you start playing with atmosphere settings and lighting in your scenery. For this reason, you probably that time you want to disable the reuse indirect lighting. Okay, next, you know, so right here we have picture size and resolution, and in this case you can change aspect ratio. It's already predefined from standard to we have it widescreen. We also have it all this print, and most time you probably will use free user define. So this is straightforward. It's just aspect ratio. When you click, we can see it's how it's changed right here. So we can all the size changes. When you go to free user define, that time you can have it some predefault that was before, but right here option enable, so you can actually change size you wanted. If you want lock aspect ratio, you need to click on the lock button. In this case, when you change one value, the width and height will change as well. So we also have it dot per inch render, currently set to pixels and set to DPI. 72 DPI, it is default for many monitors. However, if you use it Mac, Retina or other, you probably have a different DPI right now. You're going 300 most, it's for the printing, and I think it's about 120 for the large poster size, but it's depend on people asking. So beside that, you can also, you know, right here I can type in values if I don't have anything on a drop down box. But for the computer animation view, it's 72 dpi, it's most common. Also, you notice we have it on the bottom, add information strip. If I enable this and render on the bottom of my image, and now I have a very weird wide image to render, but as soon as finish render, you can notice right on the bottom, you see right here I have this strip which tell me what view was using, name, frames, render, or just information strip. and that add to my render. You can customize this render strip by click on edit and select what information you wanted. Most time when you work on a big project and you want to share maybe pre-render, this is very useful information. In art, when you just create your singles or art, you just disable that options. Okay, next we have a panoramic view, which allowed us to create render around our scenery. We can specify what degree, from 0, 1 degree and 360 all around us. And spheric render allowed us to render around area. In some case, when you're creating a lighting cube for video game or maybe as HDRI image, important other ones, you probably want to enable both of them if it's required, also bottom. Otherwise, if you don't want to include bottom, you can move it and just reposition specific areas where you want to render. Overall, it's going in the degrees and it's going from position camera and going around. Okay, next we have it, let's disable this one. We have it render area. This has allowed us to render specific area in our scenery. In some ways it's similar to this, when you can right click and you can select render area. So I can do that way as well and select specific render area and render straight. Okay, so let me go ahead and disable this one. Oops, right here. Okay. Memory optimization options allowed us to clear OpenGL data before render. In some video cards, they will keep it memory. Mostly if you share memory with your system memory, then you probably want to clear OpenGL data before render. It's free. But also if it's collect additional pre-caching on a texture or other options, in this case you probably want to try to clear OpenGL data. Okay, and beep when render is completed, it just give you information if you're out of your computer or render on the background or do some other stuff. It just makes system beep that let you know the render is completed. And of course we have our resume render, and okay, and the resume render work if you enable information in options. If you remember, we can let View to resume rendering your application. So in some cases, let's say we set some render, get this size, so I'm going to click render. Okay, and I decide to stop my render. So I can go back and resume render. This is also work in option we say resume render. If you close your application, save it, when you open next time, you can go back to your render options and you will see right here resume render. So you actually can resume render if you save your scenery and come back afterwards. It saves you a lot of time this way.